The bullet shattered the windshield 6 inches from Ayana Nalnish's head. He dove behind the overturned military Humvee as another shot rang out. Beneath the twisted metal, a young woman in army fatigues lay bleeding into the desert sand. "Don't shoot!" she screamed toward the distant ridge. "I have the files!" Ayana's blood froze. Files meant secrets. Secrets in Apache territory meant trouble. The woman turned desperate blue eyes toward him. "Lieutenant Sarah Harrison, according to her nameplate. General Harrison's daughter. They killed my father," she gasped. "Now they're coming for me." A third gunshot echoed across the canyon. Closer this time. "Who's shooting?" Ayana demanded, checking her wounds. Head trauma, broken ribs, internal bleeding. "Joseph Crow Feather, military black ops. He used to be one of you." The name hit like a physical blow. Joseph had been his childhood friend before disappearing 20 years ago during a school trip. "That's impossible. Joseph's dead." "Joseph's the weapon they created." She pressed a blood-soaked envelope into his hands. "Desert Rose Facility. They're experimenting on Apache children, turning them into enhanced soldiers." Ayana's hands shook as photographs spilled from the envelope. Apache kids on examination tables, medical charts, IV lines snaking into small arms. His world collapsed when he saw the last image. Maria, his 15-year-old niece who had vanished 6 months ago, unconscious in a hospital bed, her face gaunt and pale. "She's alive," Harrison whispered, watching his reaction, but barely. "The neural enhancement trials have a 90% fatality rate." Rage exploded through his chest. "Where?" "Abandoned copper bell mine, 200 miles north, but the security—" A figure appeared on the canyon rim. Military fatigues, Apache features, rifle scope glinting in the desert sun. Joseph Crow Feather had found them. "Hello, brother," Joseph called down, his voice carrying impossible distance. Enhanced hearing. "Step away from the traitor's daughter." Ayana stood slowly, hands visible. "What did they do to you?" "Made me perfect." Joseph's smile was visible even at 300 yards. Enhanced vision, too. Faster reflexes, improved strength, pain tolerance beyond human limits. Everything our ancestors needed to survive. By experimenting on children, by evolving our people, Maria showed remarkable resistance to the early trials. That's why she's still breathing. Still breathing. The words gave Ayana hope, even as they twisted his gut. Harrison gripped his ankle. "The coordinates are in the files. Everything my father gathered before they murdered him." Joseph's rifle swung toward her. "Enough talking." The shot echoed across the desert. Ayana moved on pure instinct, grabbing Harrison and rolling backward off the cliff into a hidden crevice his grandfather had shown him decades ago. Joseph's second shot sparked off rock where they had been. In the narrow cave, Harrison pressed something small and hard into Ayana's palm, a GPS device. "Live video feed from inside the facility," she whispered, blood speckling her lips. "You can see what they're doing to the children in real time, including Maria. But Ayana, there's something else about the experiments." "What?" "The ancestor protocol. They're not just modifying bodies, they're extracting genetic memory. Traditional knowledge passed down through bloodlines. They want to harvest Apache wisdom and implant it into non-native soldiers. They weren't just stealing Apache children's bodies, they were stealing their souls." Above them, enhanced footsteps moved across rock with impossible quiet. Joseph was hunting. "How long does Maria have?" Ayana asked. "Days. The final trial begins this week." "Can you travel?" Harrison tried to smile through the pain. "Do I have a choice?" Ayana lifted her carefully. She weighed almost nothing, broken and bleeding in his arms. "There's a sacred cave system that connects to the old territorial prison," he said, moving deeper into the tunnel. "My grandfather hid weapons there during the Apache Wars." "What's there?" "Supplies, a radio, and something Joseph doesn't know about." "What?" "The location of every secret entrance into Copper Bell Mine. My grandfather worked there before it closed." Joseph's voice echoed through the cave system. "I can smell your fear, brother. These tunnels all connect. There's nowhere to run." Harrison's grip tightened on the GPS device. "The video feed updates every 30 seconds. You'll be able to see exactly where Maria is being held, and watch them kill her if we're too late." "Yes." Behind them, the sound of enhanced breathing grew closer. Joseph could track them in complete darkness. Ahead lay a race against time to save 47 stolen children, including the niece who was everything to him. But first, they had to survive the monster hunting them through the sacred darkness. A monster wearing his childhood friend's face. The GPS device buzzed in Ayana's hand. New video incoming. On the tiny screen, Maria opened her eyes and looked directly into the camera, as if she knew her uncle was watching. Then someone in surgical scrubs approached with a syringe. The syringe plunged into Maria's arm on the tiny GPS screen. Ayana's hands shook as his niece convulsed on the hospital bed, her back arching against leather restraints. The video feed showed everything in brutal detail, Maria's eyes rolling back, foam specking her lips, machines beeping frantically around her. "No," he whispered, clutching the device. Lieutenant Harrison grabbed his wrist with surprising strength. "Keep moving. If you stop to watch, she dies anyway." Behind them, Joseph's enhanced breathing echoed through the cave system. Getting closer, Ayana forced himself forward through the narrow tunnel. Harrison's weight nothing compared to the rage burning in his chest. The sacred cave stretched ahead into darkness that had hidden Apache warriors for centuries. "How many children are in the facility?" he asked through gritted teeth. 47 when I left, but that was 3 days ago." Harrison's voice was weakening. "They bring in new ones every week, always Apache, always between 12 and 16 years old." "Why that age?" "Neural plasticity. Old enough for enhanced strength training, young enough for genetic modification to take hold." The GPS buzzed again. New video feed. Maria had stopped convulsing. She lay motionless on the hospital bed, her chest barely rising and falling. A doctor in surgical scrubs checked her pulse and made notes on a clipboard. "What did they just inject her with?" Ayana demanded. Harrison struggled to focus on the screen. "Phase 3 neural enhancement. It either creates a perfect weapon or kills the subject within 6 hours. 6 hours. Ayana calculated distances in his mind. 200 miles to Copper Bell Mine. Even if they reached the hidden weapons cache, even if they contacted help, even if everything went perfectly. "She won't make it," he said. "She might. Maria's shown unusual resistance to the modifications. That's why they've kept her alive longer than the others." "What happened to the others?" Harrison's silence was answer enough. A sound echoed from behind them. Not footsteps, but something else. A low, rhythmic breathing that didn't sound entirely human. "What is that?" Ayana whispered. "Joseph, the modifications affected his respiratory system, enhanced oxygen processing. He can track by scent alone now," which meant they were leaving a blood trail he could follow in complete darkness. The tunnel began to slope upward. Ayana recognized the path. It led to the old territorial prison where his grandfather had hidden supplies during the Apache Wars, weapons, medical supplies, and most importantly, a radio powerful enough to reach the outside world. "Who can we contact?" he asked Harrison. "Who has authority over Black Ops facilities?" "My father was working with Senator Patricia Yazzie from the Navajo Nation. She chairs the Senate Subcommittee on Native American Affairs." Harrison coughed, specks of blood hitting Ayana's shirt. "But the facility is buried so deep in classified programs that even she might not have clearance." "Senator Yazzie." Ayana knew the name. She had visited the reservation 2 years ago, promising to investigate missing native children, but political promises meant nothing when children were dying. The GPS buzzed again. This time, the video showed a different room, a laboratory where technicians in hazmat suits worked over examination tables. Apache children lay unconscious, their bodies connected to machines that monitored brain activity. "The Ancestor Protocol," Harrison whispered, watching the screen. "They're mapping neural pathways associated with traditional knowledge, tracking skills, plant medicine, survival instincts, everything our ancestors learned over thousands of years. And then they download it, store it digitally, and upload it into soldiers who've never set foot on a reservation." The horror of it struck Ayana like lightning. They were digitizing Apache souls. A new sound came from behind them, something between a growl and a laugh. Joseph had found their scent trail. "How far to the weapons cache?" Harrison asked. "Half a mile. But Harrison, Ayana looked down at her pale face. You're bleeding internally. You might not make it. I don't need to make it. You do. She pressed a small key into his palm. Safety deposit box. First National Bank in Tucson. Everything my father gathered on Desert Rose. Financial records. Personnel files. Enough evidence to bring down everyone involved. What's the box number? 774. But Ayana, there's something else you need to know about Joseph. What? The modifications aren't permanent. My father found a way to reverse them, but it requires a specific antidote that only exists in one place. Where? The Desert Rose facility. They keep reversal agents for failed experiments. If you can get Joseph to the lab, he might become human again. He might remember who he used to be. The tunnel opened into a vast cavern, lit by shafts of sunlight from hidden openings above. Ancient Apache pictographs covered the walls, warriors and horses, hunting scenes, sacred symbols that had guided his people for generations. In the center of the cavern sat a metal ammunition box, exactly where his grandfather had described. This is it, Ayana said, setting Harrison down gently beside the cache. Inside the box, 3 rifles, ammunition, medical supplies, and an old military radio that looked like it belonged in a museum. Will it work? Harrison asked weakly. Ayana connected the hand-crank generator and began turning. Static filled the cave, then cleared to reveal a clear signal. This is Ayana Nalnish on the San Carlos Apache Reservation. Emergency frequency. I need to speak with Senator Patricia Yazzie immediately. Silence. Then, this is Senator Yazzie's office. The senator is in session. Can I take a message? Tell her General Harrison's daughter is alive and has evidence of illegal medical experiments on native children. We need immediate federal intervention at the Desert Rose facility. Sir, I'm going to need you to... Harrison grabbed the radio microphone. This is Lieutenant Sarah Harrison, United States Army, Military ID 7794 Alpha. My father was murdered 3 days ago by Black Ops personnel. I have classified files documenting systematic kidnapping and experimentation on Apache children. Senator Yazzie has 40 minutes before they kill the remaining test subjects. The static seemed to stretch forever. Then, Lieutenant Harrison, this is Senator Yazzie. Where are you? Skeleton Canyon, Arizona, territorial prison ruins. Senator, they have 47 children. They're using them to create enhanced soldiers and extract traditional native knowledge. Do you have proof? Harrison looked at Ayana, who held up the GPS device. On the screen, Maria lay motionless in her hospital bed while doctors prepared another injection. We have live video feed from inside the facility and files documenting everything. I'm scrambling a federal response team. Give me exact coordinates. Ayana rattled off GPS numbers while watching his niece on the tiny screen. She still wasn't moving. A sound echoed through the cavern, slow, deliberate footsteps. Joseph Crow Feather emerged from the tunnel, rifle raised, his eyes reflecting light like an animal's. End the transmission, brother, he said calmly. Senator, Harrison gasped into the radio. The facility is at abandoned Copper Bell mine. Coordinates. Joseph's shot shattered the radio into sparking fragments. You always were too trusting, he said, walking closer. Did you really think I'd let you call for help? Ayana's hand found one of the rifles from the cache. You used to care about our people. I still do. That's why I'm saving them. Joseph's enhanced hearing picked up the sound of Ayana chambering around before he'd even lifted the weapon. The children we're creating will be stronger than any Apache warrior who ever lived. They're dying, Joseph. 90% fatality rate. Acceptable losses. Maria's your goddaughter. You held her when she was born. For the first time, something flickered in Joseph's eyes. Human emotion breaking through the modifications. Maria will survive, he said quietly. She's special, like I was special. Look at yourself, Ayana said, raising the rifle. You're not Apache anymore. You're not even human. I'm evolved. Harrison struggled to sit up, blood trickling from her mouth. Joseph, there's a reversal agent at the facility. You can undo the modifications. Remember who you used to be. I remember everything, Joseph snarled. I remember being weak, hungry, hopeless on the reservation. The military gave me purpose. They gave you programming. The GPS device buzzed in Ayana's pocket. He risked a glance at the screen. Maria's eyes were open. She was looking directly at the camera again, and this time her lips moved, forming silent words. "Uncle, help me." Rage exploded through Ayana's chest. He squeezed the trigger. Joseph moved faster than humanly possible, the bullet missing by inches. His return shot shattered stone near Ayana's head. "You can't win, brother. I'm everything you are, but better." "Maybe," Ayana said, diving behind the ammunition cache. "But you forgot something." "What's that?" "This isn't just any cave." Ayana pulled a concealed lever his grandfather had shown him decades ago. Ancient Apache engineering triggered a rock slide that sealed the tunnel entrance, trapping all three of them inside. "Now we find out how enhanced your survival skills really are," Ayana said in the sudden darkness. Joseph's inhuman laughter echoed off the cavern walls. "You just killed us all to save a girl who's already dead." On the GPS screen, doctors approached Maria's bed with a new syringe. The final injection, the one that would either turn her into a weapon or kill her. And they were still 200 miles away. Maria flatlined on the GPS screen. The monitor showed a straight line where her heartbeat should be. Doctors rushed around her bed, preparing defibrillation equipment. "No," Ayana whispered, staring at the device in the sealed cavern's darkness. Joseph's enhanced laughter echoed off stone walls. "She's dead, brother, just like you'll be when the air runs out." Lieutenant Harrison gripped Ayana's arm. "Wait, look closer." On the tiny screen, one of the doctors was arguing with the others. He pointed at Maria's body, shaking his head violently. "Dr. Martinez," Harrison breathed. "My father's inside contact. He's been sabotaging the experiments when he can." The arguing doctor suddenly pushed the others away from Maria's bed. He injected something different into her IV line. Not the neural enhancement serum, but something clear and colorless. Maria's heart monitor jumped. A weak but steady rhythm returned. "What did he give her?" Ayana demanded. "Probably a stabilizer. Buying time." Harrison coughed blood. "But she needs real medical attention. The modifications are eating her alive from the inside." In the cavern's darkness, Joseph moved with silent precision. Enhanced night vision let him see everything while Ayana was nearly blind. "There's no way out, brother. I sealed every exit while you were playing with your radio." "Every exit you know about," Ayana said, feeling along the cave wall for markings his grandfather had taught him to recognize. His fingers found carved symbols, Apache pictographs indicating a hidden passage. The ancestors had always planned multiple escape routes. "Harrison, can you crawl?" "Barely." "Joseph, listen to me," Ayana called into the darkness. "The reversal agent Harrison mentioned. It's real. You can become human again." "I don't want to become human again. Humanity is weakness." A muzzle flash lit the cavern as Joseph fired. The bullet sparked off stone inches from Ayana's head. "The modifications are killing you too," Harrison said weakly. "Enhanced metabolism burns through your organs. You have maybe 5 years before total system failure." Silence. Then Joseph's voice, closer now. "You're lying. Check your medical files at Desert Rose. The enhanced soldiers from the first trials, they all died within 7 years. Your body is cannibalizing itself for fuel." Ayana found the hidden lever behind the carved symbols. Ancient Apache engineering opened a narrow passage barely wide enough for one person. "This way," he whispered to Harrison, helping her toward the opening. "Where does it lead?" "Underground river system. It connects to natural caves throughout the mountain range." The GPS buzzed. New video feed showed Maria being moved from the hospital bed to a surgical table. Dr. Martinez walked alongside, arguing with military personnel. "They're prepping her for emergency surgery," Harrison said, watching the screen. "Martinez is trying to remove the neural implants before they kill her." "How long does she have?" "If Martinez can extract the devices, maybe hours. If not, minutes." Joseph's footsteps echoed through the cavern. "I can hear you whispering." "These modifications gave me more than enhanced senses. They gave me purpose." "What purpose?" Ayana called back, guiding Harrison into the narrow passage. "Destroying your own people? Saving them. When the enhanced Apache soldiers prove their worth, the government will offer modifications to entire reservations. No more poverty, no more weakness, no more culture, no more identity. Evolution requires sacrifice. The passage sloped downward toward the sound of running water. Ancient handprints marked the walls. Apache warriors had used this route during cavalry pursuits. My ancestors fought the cavalry for 30 years, Ayana said, as they crawled through the tunnel. They never surrendered their identity to become stronger. Your ancestors lost. They survived. We're still here. The passage opened into a vast underground chamber, carved by millennia of water flow. A river ran through the center, disappearing into darkness on both sides. Which direction? Harrison asked. Ayana checked the GPS coordinates on the device. North. The river flows toward Copper Bell Mine. That's 20 miles of underground travel. 18. And this route bypasses all the surface security Joseph designed. Joseph's voice echoed from the passage behind them. I can smell your blood trail, brother. You're just delaying the inevitable. They entered the river. The water was shockingly cold, fed by mountain snowmelt. Harrison gasped as the current caught them. I can't swim, she said weakly. Don't swim. Float. The river knows where it's going. The GPS screen updated again. Maria was on the surgical table now, unconscious under anesthesia. Dr. Martinez worked frantically over her exposed skull, while armed guards watched his every move. He's removing the neural implants, Harrison whispered, watching the tiny screen. But if he's caught, they'll kill him. They'll kill everyone in that facility to cover their tracks. The underground river carried them through a maze of natural caves. Phosphorescent minerals in the stone provided dim light that reflected off the water like stars. This is sacred space, Ayana said, floating on his back with Harrison supported against his chest. My people believe these caves connect to the spirit world. Do you believe that? Today, I believe we need all the help we can get. Behind them, a splash echoed through the chamber. Joseph had entered the water. He's following, Harrison said. Let him. This river has currents he doesn't understand. As if summoned by his words, the water began to move faster. The gentle flow became a rushing torrent as the underground river entered a narrow canyon carved through solid rock. Rapids. White water that would challenge even an enhanced soldier. Hold your breath, Ayana warned, just before the river plunged them into churning chaos. Water thundered around them, bouncing off stone walls with deafening force. Ayana fought to keep Harrison's head above the surface, while the current battered them against rocks. The GPS device, sealed in waterproof casing, continued to update. On the screen, Dr. Martinez had successfully removed one neural implant from Maria's brain. But alarms were sounding in the facility. Someone had discovered his sabotage. Armed soldiers burst into the surgical suite, weapons drawn. Dr. Martinez raised his hands, still holding the bloody implant. On the tiny screen, Ayana could read his lips. She's just a child. The soldiers didn't care. One of them struck Martinez with a rifle butt, sending him sprawling across the surgical table. Maria lay exposed on the operating table, half her skull opened, one implant removed, but one still embedded near her brainstem. They're going to kill her, Harrison gasped, spitting river water. Martinez was her only chance. The rapids began to calm as the river entered a wider chamber. In the distance, artificial lights reflected off the water, the underground entrance to Copper Bell Mine. We made it, Ayana said, helping Harrison toward a natural ledge beside the water. Can you get into the facility from here? There's a maintenance tunnel that connects to the main complex. But Harrison, he looked at her pale, blood-drained face. You're not going to make it much further. I don't need to. She pressed the safety deposit box key into his palm again. Get the evidence to Senator Yazzie. Expose everything. A sound echoed from the rapids behind them. Joseph's enhanced breathing as he fought through the white water. He's still coming, Harrison said. Then we end this here. Ayana helped her onto the ledge, then checked the weapons he'd carried from the sacred cave. 2 rifles, 40 rounds of ammunition, against an enhanced soldier with superhuman reflexes. The GPS updated one final time. On the screen, Maria's eyes opened on the surgical table. Despite the anesthesia, despite the trauma, she was conscious. Her lips moved silently, forming the same words. Uncle, help me. Then the device went black. Signal lost. "They cut the feed," Harrison whispered. "We're blind now." Joseph emerged from the rapids like a nightmare, water streaming from his enhanced body. His rifle was gone, lost in the white water, but his hands had become weapons themselves. "End of the line, brother," he said, walking across the water with impossible balance. Ayana raised his rifle. "Last chance, Joseph. Remember who you used to be." "I remember a weak, hungry child who believed in fairy tales about honor and tradition." Joseph's eyes reflected the artificial lights like an animal's. "The modifications freed me from all that weakness. They turned you into a monster. They turned me into a god." Joseph moved faster than human sight could track. Ayana's shot went wide as enhanced reflexes carried his former friend up the stone wall like a spider. "The reversal agent," Harrison called out weakly. "It's in the facility. You could save him." "Some things can't be saved," Ayana said, tracking Joseph's movement along the ceiling. Joseph dropped from above, superhuman strength driving Ayana to the ground. Enhanced fingers closed around his throat. "I should have killed you in the desert," Joseph whispered, "but I wanted you to see what your people could become." Ayana's vision began to gray. In his fading consciousness, he thought of Maria on the surgical table, of 47 stolen children, of ancestors who had never surrendered. His hand found the ceremonial knife at his belt, the one his grandfather had given him, forged from Apache steel. Traditional metal met enhanced flesh. Joseph screamed as the blade found the spot between his ribs where the modifications hadn't strengthened bone. "That's for Maria," Ayana gasped, driving the knife deeper. Joseph's grip loosened. Human blood mixed with whatever chemicals ran through his enhanced circulatory system. "Brother," he whispered, and for a moment his eyes looked human again. "I remember grandfather's stories about the warriors who never came home." "Some warriors choose their battles," Ayana said gently. "Others have battles chosen for them." Joseph's enhanced body convulsed once, then went still. Harrison watched from the ledge, tears mixing with blood on her pale cheeks. He remembered at the end. He remembered too late. In the distance, alarms echoed from Copper Bell Mine. Emergency lights flashed through the maintenance tunnel. "They know we're here," Harrison said. Ayana looked toward the facility where his niece lay dying, then at the woman who held the key to saving 47 children. "Then let's finish this." The explosion tore through Copper Bell Mine's main laboratory. Ayana dove behind a concrete barrier as glass and metal rained down around him. Emergency klaxons wailed through the underground facility while red lights bathed everything in hellish crimson. "Lockdown initiated," an automated voice announced. "All personnel to secure positions." Through the smoke and chaos he could see them, examination tables lined up like an assembly line of horror. Apache children lay unconscious on each one, connected to machines that monitored their vital signs while chemicals dripped into their veins. 47 stolen lives, 47 families destroyed, and somewhere in this nightmare, Maria was dying. Lieutenant Harrison leaned against the tunnel entrance, her face gray with blood loss. "The surgical suite is on level 3, she gasped, "but the security—" "I'll handle security." Ayana checked his remaining ammunition. 12 rounds, against an entire military facility. The first guards rounded the corner, assault rifles raised. Ayana's grandfather had taught him to hunt deer with single shots. Military training hadn't prepared these soldiers for Apache precision. 2 guards down, 10 rounds left. "Intruder in Lab 7, someone shouted over the facility's communication system. "All units converge." Ayana moved through the complex like his ancestors had moved through cavalry camps, silent, deadly, purposeful. Each corner turned revealed more horrors, children in medical restraints, surgical instruments stained with blood, charts tracking the deterioration of young bodies under chemical assault. A door marked Surgical Suite 3 stood ahead, guarded by 4 soldiers. 8 rounds left, 4 targets. "Remember Maria," he whispered to himself, then stepped into the open. The firefight lasted 30 seconds. When the smoke cleared, Ayana stood alone among the fallen guards. No ammunition left, but the path was clear. He kicked open the surgical suite door. "Doctor," Martinez looked up from the operating table where Maria lay, her skull still partially exposed from the neural implant surgery. The doctor's hands were covered in blood, but his eyes held desperate hope. "You're her uncle," Martinez said. It wasn't a question. "Is she alive?" "Barely. I removed one implant, but the second is embedded too deep. If I operate without proper equipment, she'll die. If I don't operate, the remaining device will kill her within hours." Maria's eyes fluttered open at the sound of Ayana's voice. "Uncle," she whispered weakly. "I'm here, little warrior." He took her hand, feeling how cold and fragile she'd become. "We're going home." "The other children," she gasped. "Don't leave them." Martinez looked toward the main laboratory. "There are 23 still alive. The others," he couldn't finish. "Can they be moved?" "Not safely. The withdrawal from the enhancement drugs could kill them." Footsteps echoed in the corridor outside, more guards approaching. "There's another way," Martinez said suddenly. "The reversal agent Lieutenant Harrison mentioned. It exists. I helped develop it." "Where?" "Secure Vault, Level 5, but it requires a specific genetic sequence to activate. Apache DNA. Mine, yours. The agent is keyed to traditional bloodlines. It can neutralize the enhancement drugs and begin cellular repair." The door burst open. Soldiers poured into the surgical suite, weapons trained on Ayana. "Stand down," their commander ordered. "Dr. Martinez, step away from the subject." Martinez moved to shield Maria with his body. "This child is dying. I won't let you." The commander's shot cut him off. Dr. Martinez collapsed across the surgical table, his blood mixing with Maria's. "No more delays," the commander said. "Complete the final enhancement protocol. Now." A technician approached with a syringe filled with dark liquid, the neural enhancement that would either turn Maria into a weapon or kill her in minutes. "Wait," Ayana said. "You need me alive." "Why would we need you?" "The reversal agent. It requires Apache genetic material. Kill me, and you lose the ability to control your enhanced soldiers." The commander hesitated. "Explain." "Your enhanced Apache operatives like Joseph Crow Feather, they eventually go insane from the modifications. But with the reversal agent, you can reset them, make them loyal again. I'm the genetic key you need." It was a lie, but it bought time. "Interesting theory," the commander said. "We'll test it after the girl completes her transformation." The technician raised the syringe toward Maria's IV line. "Uncle," Maria whispered, her voice barely audible. "The ancestors are calling me home." "Not today, little warrior." Ayana moved faster than he'd ever moved in his life. The ceremonial knife found the technician's heart before the syringe touched Maria's IV. He grabbed the dying man's sidearm and put 3 rounds into the commander before the other soldiers could react. Chaos erupted in the surgical suite. Gunfire, screaming, emergency alarms. When the smoke cleared, Ayana knelt beside Maria's table. She was unconscious, but breathing. The neural implant still glowed faintly beneath her exposed skull. "I have to get the reversal agent," he told her sleeping form. "Hold on." Level 5 was a maze of secure corridors and biometric locks, but Apache warriors had always found ways through impossible defenses. The vault door required a genetic scanner, a retinal scan, and a voice print. Ayana pressed his thumb to the scanner, leaned close to the retinal reader, and spoke clearly. "Ayana Nalnish, genetic authorization for reversal protocol." The massive door swung open. Inside, rows of vials containing clear liquid, each one labeled with coordinates that matched Apache reservations across the southwest. The reversal agent, enough to save every enhanced child in the facility. He gathered as many vials as he could carry and raced back to the surgical suite. Maria's vital signs were failing when he returned. The remaining neural implant was overloading her nervous system. "I'm sorry, grandfather," Ayana whispered as he prepared the injection. "I never learned the healing songs." But as the reversal agent entered Maria's bloodstream, something miraculous happened. The neural implant's glow began to fade. Her vital signs stabilized. Color returned to her pale cheeks. "Uncle," she said, opening her eyes, "I'm here. The other children, we have to save them." Together, they moved through the facility's laboratory levels. Each unconscious child received an injection of reversal agent. One by one, young Apache faces regained their natural color as the enhancement drugs left their systems. Some were too far gone, some had been in the program too long, but 18 children opened their eyes and spoke their names in voices that remembered home. "Federal agents are here," one of the children said, pointing toward the main entrance. "I can hear helicopters." Senator Yazzie had kept her promise. FBI agents and military investigators poured into the facility, followed by medical teams and social workers. The evidence Lieutenant Harrison had died protecting would ensure everyone responsible faced justice. "Maria Nalnish?" a social worker asked, consulting her clipboard. "That's me," Maria said, holding tight to her uncle's hand. "Your family has been notified. They're waiting at the hospital in Phoenix." As they prepared to leave the underground nightmare, Maria turned back toward the empty examination tables. "What about the ones who didn't make it home?" she asked. "We remember them," Ayanna said. "We tell their stories. We make sure this never happens again." Outside Copperbell Mine, sunrise painted the desert sky in shades of gold and crimson. 18 Apache children breathed free air for the first time in months or years. Lieutenant Sarah Harrison had died in the medical helicopter before it reached the hospital, but her sacrifice had exposed a conspiracy that reached into the highest levels of government. Senator Yazzie promised congressional hearings. The FBI promised prosecutions. The Army promised reforms. Ayanna promised only one thing, that he would teach Maria and the other survivors the old ways, the healing songs, the stories that no enhancement drug could steal. Because some things were more powerful than any modification science could create. The wisdom of ancestors, the bonds of family, the unbreakable spirit of people who had never surrendered. As they walked toward the waiting helicopters, Maria asked, "Uncle, what happens now?" "Now we go home, little warrior, and we heal." Behind them, the desert wind began to erase the tracks leading to Copperbell Mine. But the memory of what happened there would live forever in the stories told around Apache fires. Stories of children who came home against impossible odds. Stories of a people who could not be broken. Stories that would be passed down to ensure that no child would ever again disappear into the darkness of greed, disguised as science. The desert had given up its secrets at last, and justice, like the sunrise, had finally come to Apache land. Tu gostou dessa história emocionante? Se você ficou na torcida para o Ayanna salvar sua sobrinha Maria e as outras crianças Apache, inscreva-se no canal para mais histórias incríveis como essa. E nos comentários, escreva de qual região você está assistindo. Queremos saber onde nossos guerreiros estão espalhados pelo mundo. Ative o sininho para não perder nenhuma aventura nova. Até a próxima história.